Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, thank you for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
A grandmother from Barnsley has died from rabies after she was scratched by a puppy on a family holiday abroad.
Yvonne Ford died here at Sheffield, Hallamshire's hospital after returning from a trip to Morocco. Her family called her death an unimaginable loss.
Building to a crisis, how West Yorkshire's ADHD services are being overwhelmed and what it means for those living with the condition.
If we don't have some sustainable funding by January 2026, we will cease to exist in our current form.
There's absolutely nothing at all. There's just waiting lists everywhere. So you literally have nowhere to go. And in the meantime, your heart's breaking because your child's struggling more and more.
School of Sanctuary. We go inside the Bradford Secondary, supporting scores of refugees from international war zones.
And it'll be a mouth-watering start to the Premier League season in August as Leeds take on the Toffees in their opening fixture.
First tonight, a grandmother from Barnsley has died from rabies after being scratched by a puppy while on holiday in Morocco. Yvonne Ford, who was 59, went on the family trip in February, but she only became ill 2 weeks ago.
Well, public health officials have today issued advice and they're appealing for people to vaccinate their pets and take animal bites seriously. Katie Oscroft is outside Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield, where Yvonne died, for us tonight. And Katie, what more do we know about what happened?
Well, first of all, Ian, this tragic case is extremely rare. There have been only 6 in this country in the 24 years prior to Yvonne Ford's death. But her family want people to be aware of what happened to her to avoid just even one more. They described her death as an unimaginable loss. And they also described what happened. They said this, that Yvonne was scratched very slightly by a puppy in Morocco in February. 2 weeks ago, she became ill, starting with a headache and resulting in her losing her ability to walk, talk, sleep and swallow. They said, if you're ever bitten or scratched, seek medical attention immediately. We never thought something like this could happen to someone we love. They said, please take animal bites seriously, vaccinate your pets and educate those around you.
Well, Katie, this is clearly a devastating incident for the family. What has the medical advice been about rabies?
Well, absolutely, and rabies is a very scary word and it provokes fear in people, perhaps people heading off on a holiday to Morocco like Yvonne did. But the UK Health Security Agency has said there is no risk to the wider public as a result of what happened to Yvonne, and Dr Andrew Lee from the agency has given us this advice.
It's extremely rare in the UK, so there's actually no risk to the British public here, back here. The greater concern is going abroad, because there are lots of countries around the world where rabies is present. Get your vaccines if you're going abroad. If you do get bitten, you'll make sure the wound's washed out and you seek medical attention sooner rather than later.
Well, as a precaution, health officials who came into contact with Yvonne, she was treated and died here at the Hallamshire Hospital. She was first diagnosed at Barnsley Hospital and her family will be assessed and offered vaccines where appropriate. But the main message here is around prevention. That message again from the family and the health officials, that if you have been even slightly scratched by an animal, seek medical attention straight away, because at that stage it can be treated. Once symptoms are clear, then rabies is sadly a fatal illness. Clearly, Yvonne Ford had no idea that she'd returned from holiday infected. Her family want people to know exactly what happened to her. They want them to be aware and alert so that this does not happen to anyone again.
Yes, as you say, Katie, a very rare incident, but a very tragic one. Thank you at Sheffield Hallamshire Hospital for us tonight. Katie Oscroft.
And our thoughts are very much with Yvonne's family at this difficult time. Well, next to an emerging crisis in ADHD treatment right across West Yorkshire, with health professionals and support groups struggling to cope with demand.
One charity said the NHS had effectively passed its 4,000-long waiting list onto them, pushing their own services to breaking point.
Health bosses say they're working to address an unsustainably long waiting list, But the West Yorkshire ADHD support group say that it's left them fearing for their future. Michael Billington has more.
Oh, do we need another bench?
Yeah.
To match?
Yeah.
No problem.
This place is a haven for asthma, a lifeline for people with ADHD and their families who say navigating a maze of mental health supports has become increasingly difficult.
Can't meet the capacity and can't even pretend to meet the capacity now.
Delaney's daughter Misha is waiting for a diagnosis. She says getting help through her doctor has been virtually impossible.
At home, her mental health is far worse, her anxiety's increased, and he basically said he couldn't even write to the treatment team. There's absolutely nothing at all. There's just waiting lists everywhere, so you literally have nowhere to go, and in the meantime your heart's breaking because your child's struggling more and more.
So demand for this charity's support has soared in the face of a national crisis in ADHD treatment, a crisis the scale of which was laid bare last year when one NHS trust in Leeds temporarily stopped seeing new adult patients. 4,000 people were waiting to be seen when the ADHD waiting list was suspended last October, but the trust which runs services here in Leeds says it only has capacity to see 16 people a month. It means new referrals would face a 10-year wait for support. The Leeds Adult ADHD service said it was continuing to work with partners to address extremely high levels of demand and an unsustainably long waiting list. Laura is among those still waiting.
There's just nothing there. There's nothing in place to actually support people and to tell people what to do, to give them information. There's no service that exists.
And how does it feel that that responsibility seems to be falling to charities now?
Well, especially when they're not even getting funding from the government to do that, and it is really, I worry about other parents that are going to get trapped and won't get the support that I have got from charities because they won't be aware of it.
The charity, which says it's effectively become the official alternative to the NHS, says funding and demand pressures are now calling their very existence into question.
If we don't have some sustainable funding by January 2026, we will cease to exist in our current form. So we'll go from an opportunity where West Yorkshire could be a beacon area to being in a bigger mess than we are now.
NHS West Yorkshire says it's hoping to make more ADHD assessments available by the autumn, but the charity says it finds itself already overwhelmed by patients told to wait a decade for NHS support. Michael Billington, ITV News.
A man who stabbed his wife to death as she pushed their baby in a pram in Bradford has told a court that he intended to kill himself.
Habiba Massoum said he lost control when he attacked Kulsuma Akhtar, who had left him because of his violent and controlling behaviour. Well, Fraser Maud has been following the trial for us. And Fraser, what has Massoum been saying in court?
Well, everything he's been saying in court has been through a Bengali interpreter, and he was first asked by his own defence barrister about an incident back in November 2023 when he punched Kulsuma Akhtar, held a knife to her throat, threatened to murder her, all because he'd seen a text on her phone, an innocuous text from a male colleague. He was actually on court bail for those offences when he then travelled to Bradford in April 2024 to confront his wife. She was living in a women's refuge in Bradford, and he'd managed to find the address of that refuge, which should have been kept secret because she'd accidentally left the mobile phone location services switched on, and he traced her through her mobile phone. So he confronted her as she went shopping with a friend and with their 7-month-old baby in a pushchair. CCTV was shown earlier in the trial to the jury. It showed the pair talking reasonably calmly, it seemed at first, before Massoum then clearly loses control and begins a prolonged and vicious knife attack, which eventually took the life of Kulsuma Akhtar. He was told in court, well, he said in court, I wanted to see her to explain that I wanted to see my son. I was hoping that if I explained to her, she would understand, and if she didn't, then maybe I would kill myself. His defence barrister then said, well, how was it that you ended up using the knife on her and not on yourself? He said, well, I tried to talk to her and explain to her about seeing my son. I was asking her to try and understand. I was trying to ask her to consider our child. He needs a father. He then went on to say that she told him she didn't need to worry about her son. There's no lacking of a father for him. He took that to mean that she'd found somebody else, and the barrister then asked him, well, what impact did that have on your mind at the time? He simply said, I lost control. He broke down in court, sobbing as he said that he'd lost control. He then said that he couldn't remember anything at all about the attack itself. He has admitted manslaughter, pleaded guilty to manslaughter and to possession of a knife, but he still denies murder and the trial continues.
OK, Fraser Maud, thank you.
Thank you.
Now you're watching Wednesday night's calendar. Thanks for being with us. And still to come tonight, riding back in time, we get a bygone look at life in the Steel City thanks to a brilliant new documentary that's going on show tonight.
And the hot weather continues. In fact, it could get even hotter by the time we get to Saturday. If you're struggling with it though, good news that things might be a little bit more comfortable by Sunday. I'll have all the details for you with the forecast. But first, investigations are continuing into the deaths of two sisters from Rotherham who drowned at a Welsh national park.
Hadra Zahid and Halima Zahid lost their lives a week ago, and an inquest opened today in Carnarvon. Carol Green was there for us and sent this report.
The inquest heard the two sisters drowned in Eryri National Park after travelling to the area with friends from university. Last Wednesday evening, Hadra Zahid, who was 29, and her sister Halima Zahid, who was 25, were pulled from pools on the Watkin Path, which leads to the summit of Yr Wyddfa, Snowdon. They were pronounced dead shortly before 11 p.m. at the scene. The Assistant Coroner for North West Wales, Sarah Riley, said Hadra and Halima had travelled to the Nant Gwynant area and they entered the water, and both sadly died as a result of drowning. The sisters, who were born in Pakistan but lived in Rotherham in South Yorkshire, and they were studying for master's degrees at Chester University. The university has paid tribute to them, saying the women touched the lives of many. Miss Riley adjourned the inquest so further investigations can be carried out into how the women came by their deaths. She offered her sincere condolences to the family, their friends and all who knew and loved the two sisters. Carol Green, ITV News, Caernarfon.
A school in Bradford has been awarded School of Sanctuary status for its work supporting students who are refugees and asylum seekers.
Hanson Academy is home to students from across the world who speak up to 50 different languages.
Well, while not all are refugees and asylum seekers, the school prides itself on helping them all learn English and celebrates all the different cultures across the school. Amelia Beckett reports.
The first thing you see when walking into Hanson Academy is a wall of cultures. Representing the countries of students across this school, more than 50 languages are spoken and embraced here. But it's their work teaching English which has seen them recognised. It's what bonded Afsanul from Bangladesh and Hashir from Pakistan. All that and a love of chess.
So we learn English over there. Yeah. So I'm also the student in there. He is also a student there. So we just meet each other over there.
And you found out you both like chess?
Yeah, he liked it, but he leave it. But now we are just playing.
And who wins more often?
Me, obviously.
I like to share things with people. I like to be friends. Like, you know, Hashir, he was one of the friend when I came. He helped me. And when he was struggling, I was also helping him.
Do you guys think it was difficult coming into the UK?
Ikra is one of the teachers who helped develop the New to English programme. She also taught Mariana from Brazil and Benignant from Zimbabwe, who'll both be sitting their GCSEs next year.
I feel really comfortable now, like I'm doing everything for my GCSEs right now, and like I have so much like support over here.
What have you taught people about your culture?
I taught them about the food we eat and our language, and they find it interesting as well.
The school also has its very own museum to celebrate the different countries represented. Last year it welcomed 73 new students, many of whom arrived from conflict-affected regions. And it's specifically that work with refugees and asylum seekers which has now seen it awarded a School of Sanctuary.
All students spoke so warmly about the benefit that having new to English students and people who are seeking sanctuary, so refugees and asylum seekers, the benefit that they've brought to the school.
With children already students here, welcoming those from abroad.
It's helpful to welcome people because they might be a bit scared or worried that they're not going to make any friends or not fit in or out. So we've got to welcome them and make them feel fit in.
A sentiment which this school hopes will stay with its students long after they leave. Amelia Beckett, ITV News, Bradford.
Now, you may remember last month how Sheffield was treated to an impromptu street gig by a rather well-known singer.
Yes, Ed Sheeran turned up unannounced to put on the show, and thousands of fans soon gathered to watch in the city centre.
Yeah, of course they did. He did it to support a youth arts group. Well, now he's gone further. He's demanding that the government shells out £250 million to support music in schools. James Webster has more.
Hitting the right notes at Robert Wilson Primary Academy in York.
Life is sweet, there is sunshine. I love just picking up my guitar and playing music. I love music in every way.
Well, it just helps me get away from things when I need just to calm down. And I also think it's helped me with a lot of friendships.
Sometimes music has been the only person or thing who's been there for me when no one else has.
And it's because of those benefits that the singer Ed Sheeran's leading a campaign for music in schools to get £250 million of extra funding. His letter to the government, backed by the likes of Annie Lennox, Stormzy and Paloma Faith. It says decades of dismantling music needs to be repaired. Music should be for all, not a few, he says. That's a concern shared by some of the artists at last month's Ivor Novello Awards, among them Self-Esteem, who's from Rotherham.
There was a peripatetic funded drum teacher that came round, and I had drum lessons, and then that's why it's so stressful to think about that being taken away, because everything I did was for free through school, and I had an amazing teacher that stayed behind after school to help me learn to sing and stuff.
There was no specific mention of creative sessions like this music lesson getting any extra money in last week's spending review. The Department for Education highlighted £25 million announced last September for new instruments, as well as a music opportunities pilot and the new National Centre for Music and Arts Education, adding, "We are committed to ensuring art, music and drama are no longer the preserve of a privileged few."
Kicked out of the party. Just out of the lobby.
Sisters Nairobi and Chaya went from uploading covers to YouTube during lockdown to getting Arts Council funding that's helped them release 9 songs and get booked to perform at a string of festivals, including Reading, Leeds and Glastonbury.
I think it really deserves that respect, that it can be a career instead of just a hobby or an extracurricular activity.
You don't just have to be a singer or a musician. You can work in lighting, you can work in publishing, you can be a promoter, you can be a booking agent. So it's not just being on stage. Like, we couldn't be on stage without a whole team of people around us.
Back at our school, music lessons are still on the timetable, but they know there are other schools where keeping it on the curriculum is proving a challenge.
Up until 2 or 3 years ago, we had specialist music teachers teaching every class in Key Stage 2. So they are people who, music is their passion, it's their speciality. And now, unfortunately, we just can't afford that. So, teachers do their absolute best, but they are not specialists.
Music, they say, deserves its place on timetables, but it needs more funding to stay there. James Webster, ITV News.
Well, I think music lessons have certainly changed since I was at school, that's for sure. Now then, Chris is here with some sport for us. Did you play an instrument at school, Chris?
I tried to play the recorder, but I was terrible.
Not Three Blind Mice.
3 blind mice, 3 blind person, because I couldn't read the music, yeah.
Oh dear, let's get down to business then, and more news on the troubles at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, Ian, if you remember this time last week, I was reporting on how Sheffield Wednesday's owner Dave Fonchanseri had failed to pay players and staff for the second time in 3 months. Well, 2 weeks ago they were placed under a transfer embargo, and today, well, more punishment. They've been given a 3-window transfer ban, which means they won't be able to spend money on new players until January 2027 at the earliest. Now, Wednesday say they've already lodged an appeal against this. That will be heard by an independent commission. Meanwhile, it's also been announced that their annual Owls in the Park event has been cancelled less than 2 weeks before it was due to take place.
Yeah, and elsewhere it's fixture release day for the Premier League. Of course, Leeds United going to go up, aren't they, for next season? Yeah. So what have they got to look forward to?
Well, Lara, yeah, they're already up and they've got plenty to look forward to next season, of course. Now, I know the argument is, well, they're going to be playing two teams, every team twice out there during the course of the season. It doesn't really matter when they play them, but there is an argument to say that how these games land could have a significant bearing on how Leeds fare in the Premier League next season. Here are a few key dates for your diary. Leeds' first game of the new Premier League season is on Monday evening, the 18th of August. Everton are the visitors to Ellen Road, so Leeds should be confident of getting off to a good start. Their first away game of the campaign, well, that's a little trickier. It's against last season's Premier League runners-up Arsenal in North London. Now the big one, of course, Leeds fans, still, it's Manchester United, isn't it? They take on their rivals at Ellen Road on January the 3rd. Ironically, that's the same date that Leeds recorded their last win against Man United back in 2010. Jermaine Beckford with the winner at Old Trafford in the FA Cup there, and they'll be back at Old Trafford in April for that return fixture as well. And the final game of the season sees Leeds travel to West Ham. Who knows how significant that journey to East London will prove. Now, of course, these dates all subject to change due to television broadcast reasons. Meanwhile, Leeds are close to making their second new signing of the summer. It's been reported that Slovenian international defender Jaka Bijol has had a medical today ahead of an £18 million transfer from Italian side Udinese. And that's all your sport.
That was a lot of sport, thank you.
It was. You're welcome.
Thanks very much, Chris. Now then, finally, look very closely. You may spot yourself in this next bit that we have for you, because 9 decades of history has been dug out of the archives in Sheffield.
And for the very first time, the footage will be presented in an interactive show which tells the story of the Steel City. Here's Victoria Whittam.
Well, it's not the same, is it? I don't think I was the same. Everything's salted.
This is really powerful footage from the 1980s. It shows on the Manor estate in Sheffield as it's being demolished and making new housing for some of the residents. But it gives people a real opportunity to talk about their lives, their leisure time, politics, and the poverty as well.
Moments in time stored for safekeeping now finally on show at Sheffield's Documentary Film Festival. For the first time, the city's story is being told by the clip's custodians at the Yorkshire Film Archive.
So we have a lot of full films on our website, but this is an opportunity to curate them, to package them, to tell a story around them, and to take people on that filmic journey.
Starting with Queen Victoria's visit in 1887, the collection features clips from both professional and amateur filmmakers.
And the tone changes is this one. This is 1914. We've got the Sheffield Hallamshires going off to war. Around about 1,000 men left. And then about 500 were wounded. Nearly 100 died soon after.
Poignant moments, but humorous ones too.
This is really fun. This is the Sheffield Spartan swimmers in the 1930s. An amateur filmmaker called George Surgeon, and he was playful in his filmmaking, as were the characters of the club as well.
Regional news also gets a mention. This is a calendar feature about a challenge undertaken by a blind motorcyclist.
Film can instantly trigger memories, it can bring nostalgia, but it also speaks to the contemporary issues of our time. So, there's people protesting about the anti-war protests. There's people out there looking at council estates and poverty. People might see themselves, see family members, see where they work, see where they play, spend their leisure time. We don't want them preserved on the vaults, but not seen. We want them to get back out to people. We've got just a real smorgasbord, if you will, of Sheffield screen heritage that we want to share and celebrate. And that, for us as an archive, is really important.
Sheffield on Film will be live at the Crucible Theatre this Sunday and on Monday at the showroom. Victoria Whittam, ITV News.
It's wonderful, that, isn't it?
It's great. Well worth a trip to see that, I think.
Can you do breakdancing?
No. I can't do the weather either, but Kate can.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again, good evening. Well, it's certainly got some hot weather on the way. Could be a little bit uncomfortable, particularly if you struggle with the heat. The good news, though, is that it will be less hot by the time we get to Sunday. But before that, there are some pretty high temperatures on the way. High pressure dominating things at the moment, keeping any weather systems at bay and allowing that warm air to move in. So as we go through this evening and overnight, it will be dry with clearing skies, but there is the potential for a little bit of low cloud and mistiness in places. A warm night, temperatures keeping well into double figures for most, but perhaps in more rural spots getting a little bit lower. Now tomorrow morning, any mistiness should soon clear by about 9 o'clock, and then we've got some lovely sunshine on the way. But yes, it is going to be pretty hot, particularly inland. We'll see temperatures reaching around 27, possibly 28 degrees, and of course a very high UV level in that sunshine. And then looking further ahead, you can see that high pressure is sticking with us, but it's just drifting eastwards a little bit. It's going to allow this weather system to push in on Friday and Saturday. The potential there for some showers, which could be heavy and thundery, but also could be quite hit and miss, and you might escape them altogether. So the outlook is very much one of talking about the temperatures. Pretty hot. Look at Saturday, 31 degrees, potentially maybe even a little bit higher than that. Plenty of sunshine, bit more cloud around perhaps on Saturday, and the risk of those showers. But then look, by Sunday, yes, it's still warm at 26, but not as hot. But certainly some warm nights to come as well. Your pollen forecast is next.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather. Making the most of summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
And here's your pollen forecast for the next few days. As you might expect in this dry and settled weather, very high levels of grass pollen and weed pollen is on the rise as well and could cause some symptoms.
Definitely need to keep the window open tonight when you go to bed, I think.
Funny to think it might be cooler when it gets to 26 degrees on Sunday.
Gosh, yeah. It's still really hot, isn't it?
Yeah, very hot.
Thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Good night.